to restream. That's a good sign. What about Twitch and YouTube? YouTube is still waiting. Twitch is connected. That's a good sign. YouTube is connected. Very good. I logged into the right accounts. Let's see if the chat's working. It's trying, it's trying. I got 2 checkboxes. Hey, look at that. Today, everything seems to be working. Last week, the chat wasn't working. Welcome to Code Hangout number 222, where I'm finally gonna try to finish the counter anti-cheat tool. So last time we got it all wrapped up into a pretty sleek package. And today my goal is to actually A, test it on the local server, and then B, set something up live that lets me kind of run this as a sort of in parallel with the current code without actually doing anything, and then just outputting to the log, to some sort of log. I have to see, you know, because I don't want to necessarily mix it with the regular log, so maybe I'll write it into a separate file or something. I don't know if there's some other way of logging into another standard out situation. I don't know. So let's see. The last thing we did was we have the counter tools lib, which I don't think we're currently using. We're using it to test, but we're not actually doing the IP conversion at all. So we want to now move our index Q into a separate file, I think. These two. And then separate out everything that we need for the actual running system from anything we have in this test harness. So I think that's where we're going to start. And before I start, let's have a quick look at the file where it's actually going to be running, which I think we have open here as well, which I believe is API server. Bring it up here. So API server is here, and it's an MJS file, and it uses import. So we should be able to use the same syntax here. Don't know if we need to call them MJS. Let's rename them and see if it'll work. So if I do this and then go down here and say, I can't just rename it. Can I do a rename here? Yeah. Does that still work? Looks like it. All right. So we have a second file, and we'll call this call it counter protect. Why not? So we call this counter protect.mjs. Sure. And then we'll put these in there. And I think we could just export them straight away. But I don't think we're going to use index Q outside of here. So now we should be able to just replace this with an import statement for index Q. Or let's just see if we can just import only counter protect. Kind of do this. And then get rid of all of this. Is that still gonna run? Hey, look at that. Okay, so that's all we need. Don't need any of this. Don't need that. We're messing around with the crash log thingamajig. Don't think we need any of these either. Yeah, we're not using those anymore. We're just using this to... Okay. So... let's see. So the original start one was kind of our prototype system that was sort of manually implemented. So I think we can get rid of all of this. I mean, it contains our record of how we try to do the penalties, but you know what? If I really, really need it, I'll look it up in the videos. So I guess we can just get rid of start here and then just get rid of that. And that should still run, right? Okay, so we have our configuration, which is just an empty object. I think the configuration can just go here. Right, that makes sense. So we're just setting up some file names, etc. Where do we execute load test data? Inside start. Are we using config in here? No. So we can just say rows like this. We can do this. And then we can do this. Boom. Right? Yes. Okay, so all we need to set up the counter protectors is this. So let's move that up into our init. So counter protect config equals. We're just gonna put that there. So it's nice and separate. Probably want to still pass the config in here. Then we'll do config dot this like that. So, hey Keith, how are you doing? So what we're doing today is packing up the code into a little package, which is basically done. Plug it into our local server for a quick double check. Okay. Now the one problem is with the double check is that it's very hard to actually trigger it, because obviously me hitting it isn't gonna generate anything useful. So it's more like I'm less checking if it's working, and I'm more checking if it's not interrupting any normal operation, right? So right now, check hit returns true or false according to if we want to block or not. So maybe we rename it to check, to block check, because check hit, what's the output, right? But if it's a block check, true means blocked, you know, or hit is blocked. Check blocked. If I do this, then instead of check hit, I say check blocked. And then is blocked. Right? Yeah. So this, our 20,000 test rows would generate 37 blocks. Now, we want to be able to log. But since we're feeding in the hits one by one, we should be able to log them very easily, right? So we should... The one thing I don't have right now is if we have a block, we don't have a log of the previous hit. So what we could do is we could either return that information from check blocked, or have some sort of function that lets us inquire blocked Y, basically, right? The problem is, I think currently we're only keeping track of one piece of information. So the moment check blocked executes, it basically loses the information of why we're blocked, right? So we have 37 blocks, so that's actually a good number for us to just output stuff. So console.log blocked A, right? And we want to see isGuard timeout. So isGuard timeout doesn't update anything, right? So we have guards get. So let's say key guards key dt guards get key. I think that should be all the information. And blocked B q.get guards. So That's from a queue block, and that's from a guard block, right? So, this is sort of our information here. So the first block was a queue block, which meant this item exists in the queue, but didn't have a guard yet. So with this information, if we're logging these blocks out, we could afterwards recreate what happened, I think. Because this gets us key, DT, and the queue get is the previous DT, so this should be smaller than this. Yeah, so we actually, if we reverse the order of that, because that's all we have, right? We have one key and two date time values. And it's basically saying us, okay, we blocked this date time for this key because the previous date time was that, right? And if another, and we're not even counting how many blocks there are. For example, this is the same IP, but if we look at the times, I'm guessing they just solved these puzzles one after the other. Yeah, so they solved this puzzle, 8 minutes later solved this puzzle. So they probably went through 3 Marty-Sears puzzles here that were probably linked from one page. But why did they get blocked? They got blocked because... Right now I don't actually have information of which file it is from. But since these are on a particular day, I can actually double check that. So let's see. So this could be the sort of dreaded double logging that I'm trying to avoid, right? So let's see. It's currently looking on the 0608, 1808 data set, and it's doing this. So if I now extend this to a particular subdate here, like this, right? Huh. Isn't that... Which days? 5, 10... Ah, okay, so it's the first file, I'm guessing. I guess the dates are off by 1, right? Yeah. And the 20,000 probably means we're really just... We're not even looking at all of them. Okay. So I can just open that file right now. So that should be in our backups folder over here. So talk about backups. It'll be in PM logs 0608. PM logs 2025 060. Oop, wrong one. 0608. And the first file, which is 0510. Right. Let's just extract this one. And let's open that. And let's have a look at this. Actually, let's look at the IP. Can I easily filter the rows? I mean, I could do it here. If I do something like console.log rows.filter row 0 equals this. Is that gonna get us all the rows by that guy? No. What does a row look like here? Ah, okay, rows row.ip. There we go. Alright, there's quite a few of those. .map row JSON.stringify row. Just so there'll be one line at a time. So if I do this, Okay, so this is a person, I imagine, that solved all these. And the timing here, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, yeah. So they basically went through some sort of puzzle pack, puzzles 1 through 12, at a normal pace. They just played one after the other, perfectly fine. But then it hit again shortly after. So this is one of those cases where it could be two, like in this case, for example, it could be two different people playing behind the same IP address. Like they might have played all the puzzles, because I don't think they'll went back 22 minutes later and then replayed them all. So this is actually a situation where we might not want to block them, right? The problem is how to But I don't necessarily mind if it gets blocked. Like, this is a very rare situation, right? So if we go back to here and say, so we had 37 cases. It only actually blocked like a few of these. It didn't even block all of them, right? Although that could be because we didn't go through the full set. If I don't limit them here, like if I make this larger, it's not actually that many more. So we got these 3, 10, 11, 12. Do we have any others by this IP ending in 91? No. So I'm guessing this is an interaction with our timeouts, right? And our timeout currently is 60 minutes. Right? This is in seconds. So 60 times 60, that's 60 seconds times 60. So it's 60. So 1 hour timeout. And if I look at these, 12, 13. So for example, if I look between snack counter, the first, small different counts, this time and the first time, that's more than an hour. Okay. So the ones that get blocked was 10, 11, and 12. So let's look at 10. Bat Bun at 13:48. And again at 14:42. Okay, so this person solved these over about an hour and a half. Then maybe handed the device over to their friend or whatever. They started 50 minutes later. And then they were more than an hour away, but they solved them more quickly. Okay, so maybe they So here I'm getting suspicious now because these times are much closer together. So maybe they actually did go through all the puzzles and resolved them. Now, would they do that to increase the counter? I don't know. So that's the other thing. A smarter system would look at the timing since the last count increment of the same IP and have a separate timeout for that. And I probably have the information to do that, but I don't want to add that complexity right now. But that's an improvement in the future where you could say, okay, irrespective of counter ID, we don't accept more than one solve within less than 5 seconds from the same IP, right? Even if it's for a different counter ID. So, So one thing I would like to add then is, just right now, when we're not blocking because of a timeout, I think it's this, right? So it's else, not blocked A. Kind of the same here. Not blocked B. And that should show up this particular situation. So there should be a couple of skippos for this IP address. Yeah. And these are all because of the delta time being... Wait, why do we have undefined? Oh, because I didn't update this. I'm wondering if we're removing from guards. We don't remove from queue, even though the timeout has happened. I guess we could also remove from queue, I suppose. But it's not really necessary. So, for example, here we have a not block between 13:30 and 14:39. Yeah, it's more than an hour. So, I don't actually... I'm torn right now, because I was thinking, like, I could remove it to half an hour. And I don't really... Half an hour is very unlikely to include technical glitches. Like, it's not... The code on the side isn't gonna double send a hit within a half... with less than half an hour... sorry. With more than half an hour, but less than an hour, right? But something like this, it would count these. And this seems almost as if the same person is just going through them and just resolving them, you know. And it might not be malicious. Like, they might be just... They just might delete a digit just to see the thing again, or they're looking at their solves again or something, right? I mean, the counter shouldn't have been counted again, so there's definitely something unreliable. I mean, I know it's unreliable because, you know, if they're using something in their browser that prevents it from recording the local data that stops it from double submitting, right? But I also don't really have a problem with blocking these. Now, this particular log file I'm looking at, that corresponds to 1 day or 1 hour? One particular day, right? So if I'm losing 53 counter increments in a day out of, you know, several thousand, that's actually not a big deal. Like, I don't care if these are false positives or not, right? As long as it blocks the larger quantity of hits. I mean, yeah, I probably will go down to half an hour. Just kind of, it gives sort of the classroom situation a potential out, right? Do I output the queue size here? 940, so it's about a megabyte at that stage. Okay. Now, how do I want to actually output this information for our test? So, currently I'm just raw logging it from here. So I could say we return false if it's not a block. And if it is a block, we'll return the information off the block, right? Basically what I'm outputting here. And I need to record it here. So if I say something like let dt0, so that's our earlier dt, right? So I'll say let dt0 equals this, because then I have a local variable that I can reuse even after it gets overwritten. So this becomes dt0, and now I don't have to do it before. Key doesn't change, right? Then we'll do the same thing here, except with q. And then we'll have this, and this, and this. Now, guards push and guards set, does that make a difference? Let's just put that up here for a sec. Wait. So push and set. Push does that and a trim. And the trim ensures that we don't exceed our growth parameters. All right, fair enough. And the push, no, sorry, and the set, if this exists, this dot update, else this dot push. I'm just starting to think, could I conflate the two and always use just one or the other? So push always adds an item today. So I think push is designed for the queue that gets to the end of it, while with guards, we don't want to add it to the end and have multiple guards on the same thing. The other option is to remove and then push at the end, right? Because with the queues, it's actually important that we maintain the order. And we do potentially want multiple items in the queue. Although, if they're already matching... Ciao, guys. If they're already matching, we're never going to look at an earlier item with the same key on the queue. So the queues could be pushed as well. Sorry, it's the guards that we don't want to have a duplicate item there. Is the remove expensive? I believe the remove is quite expensive, right? Ah, no, it's not, because we have now... Because of the way we've indexed it, right? So both items and wait, items? Because we're just using a sparse array, huh? It doesn't really cause any issues if we do it that way on the guards, though, because the guards are a very slow changing list. So this happens very infrequent. I'm just thinking if I can get rid of one of these code blocks, basically, right? For example, and we can probably get rid of the exist and the get as well. So get and exist. Get. Yeah, so we can just do a get, and if the get returns undefined, it's our exists call, right? So we can just do this. Then we can just say if boom, whoops. If dt0 equals undefined. But here we can't pull that out. Oh, actually, we can just do this, right? If dt0 undefined. Actually, I think we can just do that. Because undefined is falsy. And if that's undefined, that'll return undefined. Right? And then... let's just make sure it's the same number of blocks. 53, blocks 43. Wait a second. Why did that change now? (46, 46). And this, so that 53 was from an earlier test run where something else was different. Okay. Probably when I changed the timeout. Okay. Right. Go back to here. Right. Basically, what I'm trying to look into is the only difference eventually will be that we're looking at queue or guards, right? And I'm just realizing that return true, else guards remove. So this might as well live in else. So otherwise it doesn't happen, right? Else if. And then this always happens in the end. Okay, so now only difference is that's Q and guard, but the problem is still this is push. So if we replace this with guards push, we also would have to do a remove first. Or, yeah, we don't want to do a set on the queue because we want it to be at the end. So we kind of want to do a remove and a... We do a remove and then a push. Remove and push without doing the update. Okay, so instead of doing this, we do a guards dot remove and guards dot push, and we can do the same thing for Q. But here we're not pushing on the Q, right? And This... Oh, the reason we didn't need to bother with a remove here, because we knew it didn't exist, because otherwise we would have had it trigger here already. Do we... Then we can just always do an update. We can do it the other way around. We'll do a set here. And then here, we also do a set. Because we know it doesn't exist, so we don't duplicate the guard. Guaranteed. Right? Because this failed. Okay, so now this code block is identical to this one. Right. The only difference is this remove. So if we're failing in the guards key, we're removing. If we're failing in the other one. Okay, now if is we're actually better off having this outside of the else block, right? For now, we're just gonna get rid of these. Now this code should be identical to this code. And then instead of returning true, we want to return what? Key dt0 dt, I guess. Oops. As dt1 as dt0 and dt2 as dt. Right. And then on the outside, if it's blocked, we'll do a block count plus plus. JSON.stringify. Right? Blocked. And then block A and oops, A and B is still happening here. A, B. We don't have the information why it's blocked. That's fine. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's something I can even reduce even further. Because we have the return in here, if I turn these into a little function, I need to actually return true or false, right? Oh my god, my brain really wants me to get rid of this code duplication, but I can't think of a way of doing this efficiently. So even this is basically the same, and by assigning guards a queue, but we don't know yet on which one, so we have to try one and then try the next, right? And the problem is here we have this remove in here. I'm trying to think, can we do a remove? Like, could we just always do a remove? Because the set would put it back. Like, we could do a remove at the start. And then either it gets pushed in, or we're okay with it being removed because it's timed out. So we could put that remove here, and then these should always only be pushes. And then this is the last thing we're doing. The problem is we still don't know if we're going to return or not. Because if we're not returning out of here, we want to put it in the queue. And you cannot, I cannot make a function out of this with the return statement. Oh my god, my brain. Is there a better way of doing this? I mean, what we could do is we could set a flag and then return at the end if the flag is set, right? Like, we can have something like, locked equals false, right, blocked equals true, locked equals true, and then here, if locked, we have a singular return, right? And then we don't have the returns in here. And we'll just check either this one or we check this one. I'm trying to think. Guards push only happens if we don't have the timeout. But it always happens whenever we're blocked is true, guards.push happens. So we can also put the guards.push down here. Right? Guards.remove technically always happens as well. It's just that in this case, we don't have to do it because it doesn't exist, right? So but it means we can remove this. Right? So we can move this out here. So this should all still work the same way. Block count 45. Block count 46. Ugh. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Wait, let me I should have made a second function copy of this function before I messed with it. Like if I go a whole ways back to the original format. Ooh, not that far back. Right, we're back here. Blocked is true. We have 46 block count versus 45. Okay. So that's a little odd. If I move guards to remove... Oh, obviously I can move it outside of the exists check. Oh, yeah, okay, okay, that's why this doesn't work, obviously, because then this check will fail, right? Let's just call this 2 for now. This is like the original, the OG. All right, let's see. Now, 46 is the number we want. Yeah, okay. So that's why we got the 49. All right. All right, so this is already so much simpler, but it's still not quite there. If the card is there, we remove it, and if we haven't timed out, it's blocked, and if it's blocked, it gets put back in. Can we conflate these two somehow? No, because we actually have to do slightly different things, don't we? Is guard timeout? What does that do? It just checks the timeout. Does that change? Yes, because we have a different... we have a different time we're comparing to, right? We're either comparing to this or to this. The question is... This is blocked is true. We never... If we're here and it's timed out, we still don't want to check the queue. Yeah. I mean, that way we don't have... this code is not necessarily easier to read. These bits are... It's literally just 2 lines, like duplicating them. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth looking into. This being an else if instead of just a plain if makes sense because we're only checking it if we didn't find it in guard. We don't want to check it afterwards, even if it's timed out. So I think in this case, I'll go with the mild code duplication, because I think it's just easier to read, and it's really so minor that it doesn't make a lot of sense. And then we don't need this block variable, right? And I mean, the DT variable is just to not have to do the exist check separately. I mean, I could just wrap this in a function. I could just say if... But we can't, though, because we have multiple outcomes, right? We have either a guard doesn't exist, or a guard exists and it's timed out, or a guard exists and it's not timed out. We have 3 outputs, really. And only one of the 3 returns. One of them does the remove, and the other one does the else, right? So we actually have 3 different things we need to do, which you can't do from a singular function. I mean, we could clean it up by, like, making these checks and assigning results to variables and stuff, but I don't think that's going to actually help anything. All right, so I think we're just going to leave it at that for now. But now the output is the information we can use for logging. So we can, you know, from this blocking, we can create some sort of log information. And I'm trying to think, is it enough to just have the DT? Or maybe one daytime and the DT? Or just the 2 daytimes? Or both daytimes and the DT? I'm just thinking, like, the only important aspect is the time difference between the 2 events, right? So the delta time is really the only important aspect. So what we really kind of want to output here is isBlocked.key, isBlocked.dt1, and isBlocked.dt2 minus isBlocked.dt1. And that's really the information we want, right? These will be our milliseconds. And we can probably just do a round off this divided by 1000. So that'll be our seconds. So this is within the same second. It sort of is, right? 21,809, 22,053. So maybe we don't actually want to round it to milliseconds. We'll just keep the milliseconds, because that's actually useful information in terms of how fast something is hitting, right? Video paused. Why did the video pause? That doesn't make any sense. The heck? Why did you pause my video? You silly YouTube. All right. Oh, my lips are really dry. So, I also feel like I'm slowly slipping down and the microphone is going to end up in my mouth. Yeah, in fact, I'm slouching like... Oh, heck. Alright, here we go. So, I think for logging purposes, that makes sense. These 3 pieces of information, like that, space separated. And then we can see, okay. And I might do it the other way around. I might give the time, the second time, because then we'll know at what time the block happened, and then we can subtract this to find the previous entry and why it got blocked, right? Now this one doesn't make a lot of sense. One sec. I want to look at that one. Somewhere in the middle, right? 42 something. Very large number here. 1129, 1132, 1129, 1132. That's 3 minutes. 3 minutes and milliseconds. 217 seconds. It's just over 3 minutes. Okay, yeah, makes sense. All right. Oh, okay. So Tempted to, oh man. I'm thinking of getting rid of the milliseconds because it's just extra bytes. Because if we're looking at 3 minutes, right? That's 3 times 60 times 1000. Sorry, 30 minutes. It's actually a, what, 9-digit number? No, an 8-digit number. 50 millisecond, tenth of a second, is that 100 millisecond resolution? If I divide it by 10, or if I divide it by 100, that's math dot round. I'm wondering if flooring instead of rounding is also helpful. 0 basically means less than 100 milliseconds, right? If I divide by 10, we'll get hundreds of milliseconds. So 300 of a second. So that's 30 milliseconds, right? And then, but then we still get fairly large numbers. We're not saving a lot of. What if we just leave it as a fraction? And if we store it as a string, then most of the time, no, because we'll always get these fractional values, right? I mean, what would basically make sense is to say, okay, if it's above, we round it if it's above a second or above 5 seconds. You know what? I'm gonna worry about that. I'm not gonna think about making that decision at this stage. And we'll store the second time. So that's the time when the block occurred, and that's the milliseconds since the previous event of why it was being blocked, right? And that number should always be under 10 million, which is our 30 minute in milliseconds, right? So for example, this is 1.2 million, right? So if we divide it by 1,000, that's 1,200 seconds. So that's like 10 minutes? No. 1,200 is divided by 60. It's 20 minutes. Yeah, so this was about 20 minutes, right? And the music's stopped again. I have a feeling YouTube logged me out because it does. No? I just refresh it and then suddenly it works. What the heck is going on here? Something went wrong. God knows what. Alright. I don't know why it's... No, it did lock me out. God, gosh darn it. Alright, one sec. I don't know why YouTube just likes to log me out in the middle of my live stream. It doesn't log me out at the beginning, before the live stream. I can set it up, I do a bunch of things, and then 10 minutes into the live stream, suddenly I get logged out. And then my video streaming stops. Like, why? I just refresh here. I should still be on the right page, right? You silly goose. Okay. Yeah, in fact, let me refresh this now because that's I'm signed out here. All right, sorry, you gotta listen to this song over and over. In fact, let's go to a different one. Why did it log me out? You silly goose. Let me test the chat, see if I'm still connected. Seems to still work. Okay. Okay, so we're getting to a point now. We're getting all the information in. We're getting all the information out. We have a fairly simple interface. There's some things I could do. I could do the date conversion on the inside, check if it's a string, yada, yada, yada. Let's not worry about that for now. We have some defaults here, which we could also put into constants and all this stuff, but that doesn't really matter. So now this needs to fit into our server, right? And I'm trying to think, is there anything else I want to do? Like, do I want to have some sort of refresh or something? Not really. The other problem I currently have is that my server, I've done a bunch of work on it and I've not really pushed that into the online. So my local server and the online server are quite different. So I gotta be careful. Oh, no, wait, this is in the API. Okay, that's not as bad. Oh, no, that's worse. Okay. Geesh. Yeah, we have to be super careful what we're pushing online and all that. But it looks like this particular file that I need to actually change isn't super affected. So I might be able to sneak that change in without running into any problems. So we're gonna have to find our server code, and we have to go bring our new file over, and then we have to figure out how to log that information out. Since I'm logging through PM2, let's see, PM2 log streams. How about custom log streams? Can I do additional? Because right now there's only error, as far as I know, there's error output. I mean, I could push it into the regular log and then just have them marked as particular events and then be able to filter them out. So maybe that's what I'll have to do. So counter protect. Our API server lives in source, API, and API server. So let's make a copy here for a quick second. And bring that in to the API server. Right. And I'm not actually running this locally at the moment. So we'll have to figure out... I'm gonna switch to the local API. I've done this before in a test, so I know it's possible. npm run API. Looks like that's the one we need. Oop. npm run API. No. npm run API. Okay. Nope. I'll get it. I'll get it. So, eventually this should run it. Should run something. Huh. Is that the right thing to run? It should be running on this. How does it know which URL target to use? Allowed refers. I need to add localhost to that probably. Let's see. So yeah, I don't run this locally very often. It's been a while since I've done any work on this. So URL targets, when are these being used? So index is just the configuration. And it just passes it into the API server. And eventually I want to end up here. And it binds to where? Where? Port host. Port 915. So if I go to localhost 915, I get a 44 not found. And if I go to counter, and the counter ID that I want to use is one of the ones that I'm testing with. Say this. Ah, okay. Okay. So, to test it, I need to modify the API call we're doing here. /counter which is this. Okay. If I change it to this without HTTPS instead of that, right? And if I probably need to add some logging. So, and there should be some here. So I do this, refresh that. I think it's restarting the server, which takes longer and longer. There we go. And we get an error. Failed to fetch. Error name not resolved. HTTP localhost. Okay, that's all wrong. Okay, that's somehow completely my mistake, but God knows how that snuck in there. Okay, I don't see anything here. Do I see anything here? It doesn't have API in the... Okay. It's possible that the unknown is gonna get filtered out before we get to here. So if I do this... where account ID is privileged. Before we do the first exit, we can output maybe a little bit of data of what we're looking at here. So we have remote IP, we have refer, we have counter ID, we have counter, we have is privileged IP and is privileged refer. So if I do these and do that, it doesn't hit this. I don't think this has restarted. Ah, we need to run test API, not run API. So then it should auto restart. We have a response. Oh, because we're not incrementing it. Yes, because the local check failed. Okay, so if I say we're gonna output this, boom. Okay, all right. So currently the code here that tries to increment the counter does a check here. So I think if we force a custom counter ID in here, so if we'll say something like framework.features.solved counter dot solved counter increment, and then we'll make up our own. So we'll say testing dash test 0001, right? That should go through. And what does it return? It returns the counter like that. So if I go here, grab this, I'll do this. Async. Await and console.log await. And I will just say, put that here. Counter ID. Counter ID. If I do this, does the increment hit? That's the question. It seems to have hit once, but it doesn't hit again. Now if I increment this here... No, wait, what am I saying here? Oh, no, no, because we're doing the local check. So if I do, I'll just have to circumvent that, right? So we have this, and then this look at get counter data, and then we have this counter ID, for example. Whoop, no. If we do this, right? We'll do this. So we have get counter data. Load data. So this always does a load. So we do want to do a set counter data. Okay, so we want to grab this. Right. We'll do a set counter data. And that'll want a counter ID, prop, and val. So we'll do this. We'll go back to 1. Actually, we're just going to use counter ID. Go back to 1. And then we'll say counter false. And if I do get counter data first, like this, 1, 2, 3, what does that look like? So it's true, false, 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 and then true, false afterwards with the count incremented. Okay, so that seems to hit the count each time. Okay. So, clear that. And then here, one sec. Why is this not half the screen? This is supposed to be like this, and then this is supposed to be up here. Like that, excuse me. And here, we get 2 handle router inc, because I added one at the top, right? This one and that one. Oh, no. I have 2. Oh my god, I literally just rewrote what I had, the same thing that I had a little bit further down. Okay. So is allowed refer is privileged is true. Is allowed refer is false. So if this is false and it's not a, but it is, so we should get through to the second one. So we don't need the first one at all. Don't need that. So that should run it. We should get one output here of all the information. It's 5. It was 4 before. We have a first count day, yada, yada, yada. So now we should be able to plug in our test. So if I now look at this, we need to put this somewhere globally. So we'll probably want to do this here. This dot counter protect is this, and then we'll do, you know, counter protect config yada yada yada, kind of like that. I have the other file over here. Just add it to the end of the file. Like that. And then here, no, not here. Here, let's put this down here so we have a reference for it. A little bit of a code reference. We now need to execute this here, and we need to have the right information available. So, what is this line? Where's this line coming from? I don't know. Log request, probably. if I do this, we now need, we need to do this. No, we need to bring this in. Whoa. Don't do that. Put it here. Put that underneath. So, we need the IP. Now we're checking this against privileged IPs. So we have a remote IP. And the remote IP is an IP string. Okay. So we have an IP. So I can just do something like this. We need counter ID, which we have. And we need a DT, which I guess we can just use now at log object. Log request. Let me have a quick look at what log request does. Okay, so it does a new date here. I don't mind creating an extra unused date. So if I do this, max key length, counter protect 55 max key length options max key length. So wherever we're instantiating counter protect, this config doesn't include what we are expecting. This is config loaded in later. It appears so. Shoot. What? Yeah, server config. What? When is this stuff loaded then? API server. I see the config getting passed into API server. Oh, wait, but not into init. So maybe it's living here. Okay, so if I do this dot config, okay. Is this getting us to where we want to go? We have an IP address as a string. We have a counter ID. We have a DT. And now we can pass this into our block. Right? So these three bits of information, we have the remote IP, we have the counter ID, and we have a new date. And then we can just do this. Right? Protect is not defined. Yes. So it'll be this dot counter protect. And is blocked. Oh yeah, is blocked is also a is blocked false. So it should now be true. In fact, it should return our thing with our key and DT1, DT2. Right. Ah, okay. So that's really all we need. We don't actually need to remember all this other stuff. And now we basically just say, okay, if we have a non-false result, we want to push it into a log. So if is blocked, now log request and the log object So we could do something like action counter inc or inc blocked. We have the current date and time. We do want the counter ID. And then we'll probably want just the delta time, right? So we want time or elapsed is blocked dot dt2 minus is blocked dt1, and that should get us the milliseconds, right? And then we'll probably want to wrap this whole block into a try catch and just ignore anything that can go wrong. So is blocked false, is blocked comes true, inc blocked gets us an IP address and gets us elapsed and a number. Okay, so you can get rid of this. Get rid of this. We'll do a try. And this server crashing is not that big of a deal because it's literally just doing the counters at the moment. It won't affect the main site. But I'd like to know about it, right? So, inc blocked error. And then we'll just do something like error dot to string or error dot string. All right. So if I do this, it's that, right? And now if I look at the actual changes made, we're including the file, we're instantiating the object. Can probably get rid of that blank line. And then we have this try catch. Like that. And for now, that's all we're gonna do. And that should be enough, right? And then we have a block. We have an inc blocked, inc blocked, inc blocked. And now if I wait 30 minutes, 30 seconds, 30 minutes, yeah, it shouldn't be blocked anymore. Only I had a weird IT issues. Yeah. Yeah, weird IT issues are kind of a... Oh, but we do need to add the changes to the config. Let me just double check that here. No, it's this file. Okay, so for this update to make it into the repo, although I could deploy it just like that at the moment. Whoop, no. What tool is this? Go away. No, not Android Studio. Why? No. So I probably want to deploy AWS 3 source, AWS 4 source. We don't actually want to deploy that. We want to deploy only those two specific files. So we gotta be a little bit careful, because this is a little bit of an out-of-band deploy. So SRC API. Could I deploy all of these? Oh, because I need this file as well. Maybe I can deploy everything under SRC API, actually. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So if I do this, so deploy SRC API, Do I want leading and trailing slashes? I want trailing slashes, apparently. So if I do this... I'm gonna look at the server as well, because I want to know if this blows up into my face, right? So, we're gonna do this. Nope. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna put that somewhere where I can see it. Right. So PM2 logs API. No, that's wrong. PM2 logs 8. So, oh no, that's the wrong one. Right. The one place I'm using a JSON log. Okay. And now, I think we can do this. And I'll probably want another one to restart that service. And this was 8, right? So if I now do PM2 restart 8. I wonder if I should have added some logs for when the queues get trimmed and enlarged and all this stuff. But we should be able to do this onto the live server now by just undoing our changes over here. So we go to here. I think we can just discard these changes. Boom. And now, if I go here, refresh that, and then run this, let's bring that down here. Nope, I thought you were giving me these errors here. Yeah, there we go. If we run this, and do this, and do this, now we should getting a bad ref. Oh, wait, we can just do this. Do a group pad. Yep. There we go. Alright, now we should have a good refer if I run the right code at the right time in the right place. Okay, do it again. And we get an increment blocked. Okay, so now we can just wait for the inc blocked events to come into the logs, and then I can reference them after the fact. One second, which logs am I using? I am using these logs as my... Oh yeah, okay, here we go. So then I can just look at these logs and see if anything is getting blocked and how much is getting blocked in a day and so on. And we can run this for a couple of weeks and make sure that the blocks make sense in context of the logs themselves. What I haven't done yet is I haven't corrected for the bad data that's already in the system. Yeah. And I'm not sure if I should just manually do this for this one puzzle that stands out, or if I should use that puzzle as a motivation to actually build a little bit of an admin interface and an API where I can say, okay, because I don't want to just change the number in the file where it's stored. I would like to rather have a record of what change happened. So I want to say, okay, I have a list of corrections, but to be honest, I could just manually track those as long as I'm making the corrections manually. Except I know I've done a correction in the past, and I don't know where I track that. So having some sort of automated system, or at least some sort of basic, even if it's command line API, or even if it's just an API in here that then does the recording, because then I can always look at the code and know what happened, right? I don't think we'll necessarily see any blocks now, but this looks like the system's working, right? The other question is, currently, these are also logged into my plausible analytics system, but that happens from the client. Ooh, refer local host. Wait a second. So these are curious. This implies to me that there's somebody who runs a local copy of the site. Otherwise, why would we get a local host refer? Especially being HTTPS. That implies to me that this person has a semi-sophisticated setup. And in the future, I'd like to look into these and see if there's a pattern that IP always has that, right? Because then maybe I can say, okay, who's this IP? You know, and maybe show them a message. Hey, if you're connecting from this IP, I'd like to hear your use case. What's going on, you know? IP geolocation. There used to be visual IP or something. There was something, or visual lookup. Visual geolocation lookup. Like it was an offline tool ages ago before everything was a web interface. Visual map or visual something, I don't know. Oop, go away. Let's see. What? This is somebody from Colorado. Yeah, it could be just anybody, right? Cannon City in Colorado. Interesting. Yeah. So what I really then need to do is I need to scan the logs for all occurrences of that IP and see if that's always a bad ref refer. I haven't done any statistics on bad ref refers. Basically, I'm just checking that the refer is from one of my sites, which is the tiniest stumbling block to people who are actually trying to spam the system. All right, so actually, I'm kind of happy with this. I think that's also a change I'm okay to push into the repo. No, did it again. Why are MJS files associated with whatever the hell this is, Android Studio? So, I'm gonna say this is going to be added counter protect in shadow mode. Counter protect is running in test mode, generating log events, but not affecting counter increments. All right, that should be enough to remind myself what this change did. And I think this was a to-do item I had put down in my Saturday to-do list. Yeah, sweet. So this is also done. So I think I might as well look at this. So this was a report. I mean, this has been a long issue where basically the custom colors aren't respected in the screenshot tool. So I'm gonna leave this running a little bit, but we don't need to look at it. So let's say I don't have any custom. Let's make some color custom here. Something that I can easily reset, right? Let's see. I think Alt, right? So this is just black, right? So if I take black and customize this to, let's say, full on magenta, right? Right. And then select all, full magenta, right? And if I now do import export screenshot, it looks like this. Okay, so let's have a look at that. I don't think I have any changes here. So we don't need to look at that right now. Test collect. Oh, okay. No, I was looking at that the other day. Don't know what that is. Oh yeah, that's the plausible local setup. My god, let's hope that there aren't any important values here. Should probably be down here. Okay, so screenshot tool is here. And what I don't know right now is if it uses what it uses to generate the screenshot, right? So we have an update screenshot, and it just does a bunch of stuff here. Does that. Puzzle to SVG does that. So puzzle to SVG, I believe, is in either puzzle tools. Yeah, it's in puzzle tools. So I think this uses the puzzle tools screenshot tool, which kind of everything should, because then I can fix issues here. Right? So I can do this, and refresh that, go back to here, screenshot, and we get puzzle to SVG. Right. Now, here, it gets a little messy. Because to get our styling here, we're doing a bunch of shenanigans. Oh, I was like, why can't I see my preview? Because I have this running there. I can hide that for now. So basically what it's doing is it's trying to collect all the styles. Inject SVG styles, right. It's prepend style elements. So we have this. Append. Styles. SVG element. Prepend. Alright. What does this look like? If I refresh that. And I do screenshot. We've got this thing. And that should be like a whole bunch of styles, but not including the actual customized colors somehow. So I fear that it's exceedingly complicated to get those in there, but maybe not. Let's see. Cell highlights, cell colors. So color 3 gets its color from a variable, cell color 3, and those are defined somewhere. So these are defined here, right? But they get modified by the custom color palettes. Ooch. So if I do the screenshot thing, isn't that supposed to be that? Isn't that supposed to then have cell color 3 in here somewhere? Cell color 3. I don't see that. Cell given. Okay, let's open this SVG file in another tab, right? And then somewhere in here, we should have the style sheet. And then somewhere in here, technically, we should have cell color 3. Cell color 3. Cell color 3. Can I not see this as... Can I not see this as raw text, please? Okay, so you don't want to tell me where cell color 3 is defined, because I'm not seeing it here. Cell color 3. Fine. Dash cell color dash 3. Color dash 3. No? That's a little annoying. Dash cell dash color dash 3. Okay. Ah, here we go. root. So, where are these? These are... They're all in the C data thing. Okay, so they're all in here. They're just... Oh, okay. They were being cut off because it's too bloody big. Okay. Come on, show me. Expand. Can I not see it? Okay, blah, 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 blah. How do I force it to actually output this? Can I do a toString? If I do a toString, what do we get? Okay. Dot inner HTML. Copy. W dash dash cell dash color dash 3. Ah, here we go. Alright, so it finds them, but it doesn't see the modified version. And I imagine it is because we are reading out the string from the style sheet rather than the actual styles, right? Styles. Where do the styles come from? Get SVG CSS. So these styles are getting pulled out of various places. Style rules. Replace SVG plus PG thumb static styles. Jesus Christ. This is such complex manipulation. That's why I've been wary about looking into it. I think it's using this regex to filter styles, right? Now, the thing is, I think it is style filters. It's filtering what exactly? Style sheets. If I output these here, because basically what I'm sorry, I'm not speaking out loud what I'm thinking. I suppose so, but that doesn't really matter. I don't really care if they're from Colorado or not, to be honest. So basically what I'm thinking is that I'm reading the text of the style sheet, while the text of the style sheet is the original colors, while the custom coloring changes the value, but it doesn't change the underlying text. And what I'm asking myself is, if instead of just using the text from these style rules, if for each of these I could if I could instead use a getter setter thing to get the value of the style, right? So for example, here we're doing a flat map, right? So if I do a dot map here, right? And then here I just do a console.log style, just to see what that looks like, right? Screenshot. Right? So we get a bunch of these guys that we haven't run through the regex yet. And most of these have a bunch of rules. Okay, so we probably want to do that over here. right? Instead of here. And each rule, I believe, is still an object. It's not a string yet. Yeah. So these are the CSSL rules. And we are... So forget that. And we are getting the CSS text out of them. And then we apply the thing. Right. So what I'm going to look for is, first of all... what I'm going to do is, if dash dash cell color dash 3 dot test. First of all, I want to see if I can immediately find one of these, and then only look at that and get rid of all the noise so my brain does not explode. Okay, so we have the parent, we have the individual, and we have that. Oh, no, so we have where it's being used, and it's being used in probably more than one place, right? And we have this. Okay, cool, 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 cool. The problem is here, this is a complex piece of string with a bunch of declarations. All right, so CSS get computed style. Okay, before I do this, let's have a look at where the custom colors are being set and see maybe I can just use the reverse of whatever I'm using to do that in the first place. This doesn't do a lot. Ooh, okay, this does not do a lot. So it's not in here. It's not in custom colors. Could it be that it's actually hard-coded in the tools, in the color tool? Hard-coded. It was just too complex to build it as a feature, or this predates the features is also possible. I don't remember. Yeah, so this is definitely where the color pages are managed. But I'm guessing it's also where they're getting loaded. Validate palette data. Okay, yeah, we're definitely validating palette here. And where do we do this? Set palette. Set palette. Handle import export colors. Handle button blah blah blah. But it's not just in the dialog. Yeah, exactly. So we're initializing it here. Set palette. Set CSS var. Okay. Set CSS. Okay, here we go. All right. So running out of screen real estate here, I'll be honest. So we have get CSS var. Now, the question is, can we execute this as part of this, right? CSS style declaration. So dot style is a what here? So mdn CSS mdn CSS style rule. What kind of beast is this, right? Style returns the CSS style declaration object for the rule. Okay. Is style the thing that I care about here? It seems to be. So what is style declaration? Is that... What is this? Represents an object that is a CSS declaration block and exposes style from CSS goes 3 different APIs. Element.style, CSS style should get computer style. So CSS number of properties. So if I where were we doing our shenanigans? Here. So first of all, get rid of that. Second of all, get rid of that. Third of all, rule.style and turn it into an array. Does that look useful? I hope it will. Okay. And if we do this, dot map, and then here we go, you know, we have a little function. Right? Dot map. Name. Just map it straight into that. If I do this, is this gonna get me the computed values of each of these? So color 3 will get us our magenta. The thing is, we're looking at CSS text here. So if I do CSS text, because I'd have to generate the CSS text if I'm doing this. CSS text is this. Get CSS text for computed style. We're gonna get computed style method returns live CSS. So we could actually just pass, instead of using, because rule right now here is the whole style declaration. Wait a second. CSS text accepts a what? Declaration. This must returns a live CSS declaration. Okay, so in theory, nope. In theory, get computed style. Get MDN, get computed style. What can we pass in there? Maybe we can just pass in one of those things and it'll do a translation. Element for which you get the computed style. So I feel like this AI summary here is missing the mark. Get the image of an element, but I don't want the. Gets it for convert. Because I don't have an element here, unless the rule declaration itself is considered computed style. Get computed style from. Yes, this method returns a live without access to element. Reset for CSS style with applying it to an actual element documents is not directly possible. Method requires an element to calculate the final resolving styles, take into account the cascade inheritance. Okay, so we could pass it through. Oh wait, so maybe I can just apply it to root. HTML element dots. Nope. Pseudo ELT. So pseudo element to match omitted or null for real elements. Wait, where am I getting these styles from? Yeah, my brain. Could I just do this on the SVG element? Because I don't really care about styles that don't apply to the SVG element, really. Except all should. SVG element. Get style sheets. Are there some style settings? Push query. Get computer side. Can it accept a string? Document.query or selector. If I do this, what does that look like? Puzzle tools not defined. 3. So if I do that, I'm gonna have to label this a little. Does this return an array? CSS style declaration. CSS style declaration. The problem is it gives me 1. But is it 1 with everything in it? Because I don't see dash dash cell color here. Like, wait a second. How does this one do it? Document element get property value name trim. Ah, wait. This function already does it. Get property value name trim. I'm thinking, what was the other thing? So the rules are that each rule can contain multiple elements, and then the CSS text is this sort of thing. But I can also do this, right? So what I could do is, the other CSS text, we can get rid of that, right? Name, right? And then this is name. And we could just do something like this. Name, colon, space, oops, value, that. Like if we did this, for example. Nope. And before this, we get these, which should be identical to these, except cell color 3, instead of -36, -36, -36, should be these. Now the negative here, I think, makes it just black. So the question is, if I don't have a custom color here, the value should be the same. All the others seem to be the same. What I don't get is this root colon here. So, rule.style. Rule. Besides rule.css text and rule.style, can I get the colon root, the name of the rule as well? CSS text selector text. So, would it be something like rule.selector text, like that, colon, squiggly, dollar, this, right, mapped, dot join, with what, commas and spaces? No, semicolons and spaces, right? End of squiggly. End of that, and we got that. And in fact, we're not gonna join them like this. We're gonna join them like this, add those here. And then that, and then that. So, should that text look similar to the other one? And if I remove my custom color, should it be identical? So these look very similar if you ask me, right? So let's do that. Put that in there. Control 2, no, Control Shift 2, Alt Shift 2, there we go. Put that there, right? And then if I do like that, Control Alt, no, Shift Alt 1, there we go. If I do this, and then I can do a diff, and let's do this. This all. This all. Just left tabs. Okay. So we only have 2 changes, and the second one could be another custom color I have. And we have a colon behind the root, which is probably a mistake I made here. Yeah. And besides that, if I get rid of that, then that's it, huh? Otherwise, it's identical. So maybe that's all I gotta do. If I move this to here, and we get rid of that, and we're basically replacing this line, we're actually gonna now return this instead of rule.css text. Right. Just that. Boom, boom, like that. Maybe what I'll do is this. So if I do this, and now ask for a screenshot, and now ask for a screenshot, it breaks. Rule.style is not iterable. So I'm guessing sometimes it's one way, sometimes it's another one. Sometimes the rule is a rule, and sometimes it's a collection of rules. So if I do this instead, right, and then I can do a try, boom, catch, error, row. So I do that, and do this, it doesn't throw my error. What? Okay, that was weird. Rule.style is not iterable. I actually have to output it then. So log rule.selector text and rule.style. And I probably style.rule style.css rules. What's going on here? It's maybe related to that. Undefined. Media rule. Oh. Ooh. Media rule. I guess we could just pass these kind of things through, not worry about them. CSS rules. We do have a list of CSS rules. Selector text. What? Ooh. What was the previous thing? We were just gonna output CSS text. That could give us a hint of what it expects to happen. So if it's not, that's the rule. That's the text. So if we just did our standard thing, it wouldn't work because it doesn't have the media wrapper. Okay. Style. I don't know if it has style. It has CSS text. It has CSS rules. Style. What is this? This isn't. It doesn't give us an array. Oh, it pulls out rules or CSS rules. CSS rules. Okay, I think I'm okay with just ignoring that for now. So, if not CSS, if rule.style equals undefined, return rule.css text. Boom. We do that. No. If we do that, we get this. Ugh. Ah, shoot. That's not doing the right thing. That is not doing the right thing. Why are these black suddenly? Color 3 is now black. If color dash 3 dot test rule.css text, if not, return rule.css text, else let new CSS text equal return la da da. Because the other option is obviously to custom pull out just the colors and know that it works for the colors. Wait, why is it working now? Ah, no, it's not working. Color dash 3. Color dash 3. Shouldn't that also apply to cell color dash 3? Cell color dash 3. Color dash 3. Pen tool button, yada yada yada. Pen color dash 3. Pen color dash 3. So this is the new CSS text. Color 3 should be that. But it's not being respected either. Why? Shouldn't... Wait, color dash 3 goes through as 0. Cell color dash 3. Why is cell color dash 3 not getting used here? Wait a sec, what? What? Color 3 is that. Does that not get... No, color 3. Svar cell color 3. Color 3 is that. This style doesn't get captured? Color. This style doesn't come through. Why is that? This comes from toolcolors.css. And it's not even a colon root actually. Is that getting excluded by the regular expression? No, because this filter happens later. What is going on? Now, we have established it's not a colon root rule, because it comes from here, and it's just a style on color-3. And that should be part of the CSS text, absolutely, right? There's no argument about that. So, CSS text this, new CSS text this. Ah, here we go. New CSS. Oh my god. You little slimy so-and-so. Wait a second. That's not right. Why does this get converted to black? Is it because we're using the wrong reference element? Get computed style. If I look for that specific thing, let's change this to use our SVG element as our render as the reference element. So if I say document.query selector this, maybe that makes more sense. No. So, wait a second. If I do this, no, not this. If I do this, and I call it color, or guess color-3. Name. I'm a little lost. Make up your mind. Are you an error? Are you a list of things? Are you a thing? Are you a string? Gosh darn it. All right. Style. this style has this new CSS text. What? CSS style declaration. Color.3. CSS style declaration. Fill. Oh, okay, okay. Well, all right. Yeah, wait, so, sorry, wait, what? Yeah, this is not getting me the right thing. We're not referencing this thing. Do I need to do... do I need to do the selector text as our element like that? Right? And then we do a get property value for each of the styles. Or we'll do it for the whole selector element, like that. All right, what does that get us? Okay, maybe I'm... Nope. It's not of type element. Query selector root... Wait, what? If I do this... Nope. Query selector null. So selector text is whatever. Shouldn't we... you know what? Instead of throwing again, let's just continue. Because maybe... At least we'll see what happens on the color 3 situation and see if it makes sense. So when we get to color 3... so we'll probably get a couple of fails. Where's our color 3? Color 3, selector text. So selector text is color 3, then we have style, then we have query selector, which gets us this element, and then that gets us computed styles for that particular element. And then we kind of want to do that. Right? Where we kind of do this. But then instead of that get CSS var, we'll do this. We'll do that. Or do we need to do it the other way around? Wait. No, because we don't want to get all the styles of that element, right? We're just using that element as our reference. And then we can say our get property value. And the name is our name here. Right. I think. Could that work? Let's find out. Color 3. What a mess. Okay. Styles. Here we go. Now I have a feeling this is slow as hell, but since we're only doing it once, it might not be a problem. So what we actually want here is selector prop, right? And then we'll do this and that, right? And then here we'll do rule.selector text name. And now that whatever it returns should make sense. And it does. And it's custom colors. Now the question is, why do we care about style here? Because style is a list of properties. Ah, a style is an object where each... No, it's a list of style properties. Okay. So, if I take all of this out now... we can also get rid of that now. So now it should just work for everything. And then here we could also just do this. So if I do this, how many errors are we gonna get? A bunch or none? We do get a bunch. Okay. On window, parameter is not of type element. Parameter 1 is not of type element. So, we get a selector text, which is this. Okay, so this means this will fail on rules for all elements that aren't visible right now, such as, you know, the killer calculator not being open or not having anything in it, which is fine. Okay. So we kind of want to maybe also then do this and kind of do that. Right? So if I do this, where do we end up? Not of type element. Selected text is this. And uncut. Cannot get a window. Ah, no, we don't want to execute this twice. We just want to do create selector. So we know why. Maybe we can find out why it's going wrong. So if I do this, we're getting a null on this. Is it because of the double? It's probably just because, yeah. Because it just doesn't exist at that point. Which means we can exclude it. We can ignore it. We just pass the CSS text through. That's fine. Okay. So our fallback operation is basically just do what it would have done anyways. Right? So if we do rule.style, we return that, else we return that. Okay. And then we'll just do return here. We need to do that. I was gonna do an inline trinary, but we need the catch here. All right. I think we can do this. Const computed style equals this. Because there's only one instance of that selector text for this whole rule, which is then this. Right? And then we can also say const lm equals this. And if the lm doesn't exist, we don't need to include the style. I'm pretty sure of that. So if lm is null, return, you can do this. And computed style is this. And then here we'll just do we'll do this. Computed style dot that name. Then we don't need this extra function. I'm also thinking about to make this diff as readable as possible. So we've commented out the map here, and now we're just adding a couple of and we're replacing it with this, so it's easily reversible in the future if it causes problems. And this with that as well. And we can do this. And we can potentially wrap this into a function as well. So we can say const rule to CSS text. Boom. Rule becomes this. That's the old implementation, right? And the new implementation is this. Boom. And then we just map to this. Boom, 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 boom. Don't need that. And then we don't need that. Now the change here is just this function, and we're now routing it through that function, and we don't need that anymore. We can ignore that. I think it makes sense like this. And now, if I now do this, that should include all the custom function, all the custom colors. But I need to kind of test this on complex puzzles with lots of weird symbols and elements and stuff, and I don't have any test ones handy right now, so that'll be for another day, I think. In fact, I think I'm going to call it here today. Let's have a quick look at our server, see if it's still running. Have we had any actions inc blocked? Let's see. Let's make it bigger. Bigger. So I see a bunch of inks. I don't see any ink blocks yet. I mean, maybe there are, maybe it just hasn't occurred at all yet today, or in the last hour or whenever, however long it's been live. I don't see anything. Don't see anything. Oh, if I scroll fast, it hurts my eyes. Ooh. I don't see an increment blocked anywhere. And this is when we did the restart, I think. Yeah, so listing that, okay. From the sublime to the ridiculous, from Thomas Snyder, huh? But I don't see, can I search here? No, can I? No, can I not search? Find, here we go. block. Ah, here we go. That looks like a real theoretical block on this IP. And the reason is the increment was 388 seconds. 388 seconds, that's 5-6 minutes. Okay. Again, this could be two people behind the same IP address. Let's see, how many actual blocks here? 3. Okay. Interesting. Ah, no, these are my tests. And this one looks real good. Hey, guys! Alright, guys, that's actually a good start. We did a little bit more than I was expecting. Words. I'm gonna call it a day here. Thanks for hanging out. And then finally, we can move on to something else than the part 5 or million of this counter anti-cheat system. Hopefully, I mean, I'll have to get back to it, but I'll probably do that off stream. Like, if it... But I need to be patient. I need to run it for like at least a week, you know, make sure nothing weird happens, and then look at the data and see, okay, did we ever get... Does the system ever go rogue and block a bunch of stuff? Anyway, it's getting late here. So thanks for watching. And Toby just came back from his walk, and I gotta say hi to him. And have a great rest of your day, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Take care. Bye-bye.